The average retirement age for a footballer is 35. This can vary from position to position, with goalkeepers typically going on longer than outfield players and attacking midfielders, and wide players often retiring earlier than centre-backs or holding midfielders, for example. I recently did a video on the best footballers who retired from football every year from 1960 to 2019, which took me absolutely ages and did absolutely terribly. The top comment on that video though, the last time I checked at least, was the suggestion of a best 11 to retire before the age of 30. Now, before we get into it, I should point out that the positional discrepancies between retirees has left us with a slightly unconventional starting 11, but those of you who subscribe to the channel will know that I do like my fancy 11s to be functional, and hopefully you'll agree that this one still is. Lastly, my rules of retirement remain the same as last time out. A player saying they've retired doesn't count if they later make a comeback, and it is the age in which the player declared their retirement, not they played their last game, hence the omission of Marco van Basten. We also won't be including players who died or were killed before the age of 30. Here is my best 11 that retired before the age of 30. Goalkeeper, Espen Baardsen. As mentioned in the introduction, goalkeepers tend to go gaily on into their late 30s or early 40s before calling time on their playing days, so finding goalkeepers who quit the game prior to turning 30 and, unlike Carlos Roa, never returned to the sport isn't easy. My best shout, and do of course let me know in the comments if you think you could do better in any position, is US-born former Norwegian international Espen Baardsen. A League Cup winner with Tottenham Hotspur in 1999, Watford and Everton were Baardsen's only other clubs besides Spurs, and he retired from football aged 25, claiming to have lost interest in the sport. Centre-back, Alvaro Dominguez. We're playing with a back three, and up first is arguably the strongest of our trio of defenders in terms of his ability solely in a defensive sense, and that man is Alvaro Dominguez. Born in the Spanish capital of Madrid, Dominguez played in the academies of both Real and Atletico Madrid, going on to play 120 games for Atletico, during which time he also appeared for Spain at multiple different youth levels. Capped twice by the senior side in 2012, Dominguez also left Atletico that year to join Bundesliga outfit Borussia Mönchengladbach for €8 million. After 4 injury-plagued seasons in Germany, Dominguez went to see a specialist, who was amazed that the defender had been playing football at all. He had 3 herniated discs and a severe back complication which required multiple operations. Dominguez continued to suffer from chronic back pain when he tried to return to competitive football, and in December 2016, at the age of 27, having not played a game in over 12 months, the defender retired from football. Centre-back, David Bust. At the heart of our defence is a man widely believed to have suffered the most devastating injury of the Premier League era. David Bust was a former non-league player who joined Premier League Coventry City in 1992. It was during a game against Manchester United at Old Trafford that Bust collided with both Dennis Irwin and Brian McClare in a sickening combination which left him with compound fractures to both his tibia and fibula. The injury ultimately required 26 operations, many of which were due to the fact he contracted MRSA in hospital, and it was the infection, rather than the break, that ultimately forced Bust into a very early retirement. His testimonial at Old Trafford was a sellout, and it was also the last game Eric Cantona ever played for Manchester United. King Eric himself retired aged 30, just slightly too old to feature here. Centre-back, Marcell Jansen. Marcell Jansen was a left-back, and a rather adventurous and attack-minded one at that, but back 3 of Dominguez, Bust and Jansen is the most formidable I can come up with. Born in Mönchengladbach, Jansen began his career with Borussia Mönchengladbach before a €10 million transfer to Bayern Munich in 2007. His time at Bayern was brief, and he would spend the next 7 years from 2008 onwards at Hamburg. Capped 45 times by Germany, Jansen was let go by Hamburg in 2015 at the age of 29. A German international only 12 months earlier, and a preliminary inclusion in Joachim Löw's 2014 World Cup winning squad, Jansen said that despite numerous offers from other clubs, he didn't feel as though he could kiss another badge, and as such, he simply chose to retire. The towering fullback was fully fit, making it a pretty staggering decision in the context of the modern game, but a remarkably admirable or incredibly stupid one, depending on your views, given the money Jansen could still have earned in football. Central midfield, Ruben de la Red. Thrice-capped Spanish international Ruben de la Red came through the youth ranks at Real Madrid and made 16 appearances for Los Blancos prior to a 2007 transfer to Getafe. The youngster impressed sufficiently to be brought back to the Bernabeu 12 months later, but just 11 games into life back at Real, de la Red collapsed during a game against Real Union. Initial tests came back inconclusive, and it was announced Dellared would miss the rest of the season as a precaution. Over a year later, in November 2010, the talented midfielder announced his retirement from football, aged 25, and not having played since the incident. It was a real loss to the Spanish game for a midfielder who had been part of Spain's Euro 2008 winning squad at the age of 23, and there's no doubt that he has to make this 11. Central midfield. Hitoshi Nakata. A rarely gifted midfielder who is widely considered to be one of the finest Japanese footballers of all time and one of the best Asian footballers of the modern era, Hitoshi Nakata rather sensationally retired from football of his own volition at the age of 29. He did so after a single season in the Premier League at Bolton Wanderers. Well, a season playing under Big Sam will do that to you. Just kidding, Big Sam, I know you played some great football at Bolton, please don't message me again. Anyhow, Nakata retired as a 77-time capped Japanese international and a former Serie A title winner, and has since focused on his fashion, modelling and media interests. Right attacking midfield. Sebastian Deisler. Once touted as the next great hope of German football, there hasn't been a finer wasted talent in recent memory than Sebastian Deisler in all of world football. At his peak in the early 2000s, Deisler had it all. Capable of playing in central attacking or on the right side of midfield, he was a fantastic technician with excellent ball control, he was quick, he could cross the ball, pick out a pass, and dispatch a beautifully hit free kick. Without injuries, Deisler almost certainly would have been one of the finest players, not just German but worldwide, of his generation. His career was blighted by setbacks though, from a ruptured cruciate ligament in 1999 to synovial membrane damage to his right knee in 2006. He won 13 caps for Germany in 2005 alone, but played his final game in 2006 and retired in January 2007, aged 27. Left attacking midfield. Norman Whiteside. Northern Ireland and Manchester United legend Norman Whiteside's career both started and ended incredibly early. Whiteside is the youngest player to ever appear at the World Cup finals, breaking Pele's record to do so, and the youngest player to score in both the League Cup and the FA Cup final. Such was his early stardom, he managed to play 278 games for Manchester United, 37 for Everton, and 38 for Northern Ireland, despite the fact his career ended aged 26. Whiteside's early retirement was caused by persistent injuries to his right knee, which wouldn't recover even after multiple operations. Number 10. Just Fontaine. When you look at the all-time leading World Cup goalscorers, that list reads Miroslav Klose, Ronaldo, Gerd Muller, and then Just Fontaine. Klose went to 4 World Cups, Ronaldo went to 4, Muller went to 2, and Fontaine went to just 1, and he wasn't even supposed to start in that one. An injury to first-choice striker René Bliard paved the way for Just Fontaine's starring role at the 1958 World Cup, where he scored a remarkable 13 goals in just 6 games. At club level, the Moroccan-born frontman bagged 259 goals in 283 games, most notably for Nice and Stade de Rennes. The French legend achieved an awful lot then, but his career was sadly cut short by recurring injuries in 1962 when Fontaine was only 28. Centre forward. Mario De Castro. Just Fontaine is forced to play in a slightly unfamiliar withdrawn role, since even a striker who bagged 30 goals from 21 caps goes down as the third most prolific striker in this 11. The first of our 2 out-and-out strikers is Mario De Castro, who is quite simply the most prolific centre-forward to have ever lived. De Castro, who never won a cap for Brazil having turned down a call-up upon discovering that he would have been a backup option, scored 195 goals in 100 appearances for Atletico Mineiro. The star man in Atletico Mineiro's famed trio maldito, De Castro, was a medical student with a phenomenal ruthlessness and proficiency in front of goal. Brazilian football would lose a great at the age of 26 though, when De Castro retired in protest after one of Atletico Mineiro's club presidents shot and killed an opposition fan. Centre forward. Derek Dooley. Between them, our 2 centre forwards scored 259 goals in 163 games, or 518 goals in 446 games if you throw in Just Fontaine as well. It's fair to say this side isn't short of a goal or 2 then, and the mathematicians among you may have deduced that Derek Dooley had a career tally of 64 goals from 63 games. Nicknamed Deadshot Derek by the press, he bagged 46 goals in a single season as a youngster, and Neil Franklin believed he was the only man who could have exceeded Dixie Dean's top-flight scoring record. Sadly, Dooley would never be afforded that opportunity, being forced into an early retirement, aged 23 following a collision with a goalkeeper. He fractured his leg in 2 places, but the real problems arrived when it was discovered that gangrene had set in. Dooley's leg had to be amputated, and one of Britain's greatest ever goal scorers was forced into retirement. The team, including substitutes. Normally I have a manager and substitutes here, but I'm not sure that I know of a manager, or one of any pedigree at least, who has retired before turning 30. Indeed, there are very few managers who start before the age of 30 in the first place. Our 7-man bench includes Mats Hummels' brother Jonas Hummels, who retired at 26. Hull City's record signing Ryan Mason, who was forced into retirement at age 26 due to a skull fracture sustained when he clashed heads with Gary Cahill, former England under-21 star Fabrice Muamba, who retired in 2012 after suffering a cardiac arrest on the pitch whilst playing for Bolton, and David Bentley, who had bags of ability and was touted as the next David Beckham by some, but lacked a real appetite for the game and willingness to improve, and retired at age 29, not having played for a club in more than a year. As with the starting 11, the superstars on our bench are the forward players, starting with Fabian O'Neill. A brilliant attacking midfielder with all the God-given talent in the world, O'Neill starred for Cagliari and Juventus, as well as winning 19 caps for Uruguay, but retired age 29, to focus on his cattle ranch. Then there's German legend Uli Hoeneß, who won both the World Cup and the European Championships as a starman for West Germany, as well as 3 Bundesligas and 3 European Cups with Bayern Munich, before injuries forced him into an early retirement, aged 27. He's incredibly unfortunate not to make the starting 11. Lastly, we have former North East goal machine Brian Clough. Cloughie may be best known for his managerial feats and brash comments at Derby County and Nottingham Forest, but the former second-tier striker could play a bit too. He had a goal-scoring record to rival Fontaine and Dooley, bagging 267 goals in 296 games in total, but he was forced into retirement, aged 27, after tearing the medial and cruciate ligaments in his knee more than a year earlier. So that's it for our retired before the age of 30-11, which reads from back to front like this. Espen Baardsen, Alvaro Dominguez, David Bust, Marcell Jansen, Ruben De La Red, Hitoshi Nakata, Sebastian Diesler, Just Fontaine, Norman Whiteside, Mario De Castro, and Derek Dooley, with a bench made up of Jonas Hummels, Ryan Mason, Fabrice Muamba, David Bentley, Fabian O'Neill, Uli Hoeneß, and Brian Clough. That's it for today's video. Congratulations on making it to the end of the video. Since you've got this far and in exchange for eternal good luck and happiness, why not subscribe and turn on notifications for the ever-brilliant HITC Sevens. Also, for mobile users, if you click on your screen now there should be some suggestions of other videos YouTube thinks you might like, and I agree with YouTube. If you're watching on desktop, they should appear of their own accord. Thank you all for watching, give us a like if you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a brilliant day.